Get out of the way, we're going to the hospital. Going to Fiji wasn't the best idea. Very like tight, and I've got a really small midwife holding her over me, sort of rubbing her, kind of like what they do with dogs. Tired, I just fell asleep. I literally fell asleep on the table. Hi guys, so today on my channel I am going to be bringing you something a little bit different. Today I thought I would talk to you about my birth story. So just some housekeeping, of course, as always, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I should say, so that you know when I upload videos. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. So I had my baby girl Lila on her actual due date, which is so rare, especially for your first, but I literally had her exactly on her day. So I went into labor, well, I had contractions on the night before, and the whole labor was actually 24 hours, nearly to the minute. So at around 9:30, actually, hang on, I'll just step back a second, because I think you need to know a little bit of the history of the pregnancy and kind of my health history as well, so you understand why we had to do what we kind of had to do. So I've had a history of a heart condition, and I have fibromyalgia as well. And during my pregnancy, I was very close to have been on tipping over to being preeclampsia. They never fully diagnosed me with preeclampsia, but they were they monitored me quite closely with all of that, because my blood pressure normally is really low, and during the pregnancy it was on the higher side, very close to being preeclampsia enough, which for me was kind of very high for me. Having said that, I didn't feel anything. Like, I didn't feel or I didn't feel unwell during the pregnancy. Actually, during the pregnancy with my fibromyalgia and going through winter, I felt amazing. I had no aches, no pains, nothing. It was so good. Also with my heart condition, my doctor suggested that I would go to a specific hospital that if there was an emergency, they'd have everything there to use, basically. So that was 40 minutes away from where we live. About 40 minutes not even in traffic, and unfortunately it's towards the city, so it could have been disastrous if it hadn't have been for a little lockdown. So we were just coming out of lockdown, but we still had quite strict restrictions on. So we still had, I think it was either 5 or we had gone to the 25k. I think it was only 5 kilometers though we could travel still at that time. But obviously if I'm in labor, I'm going to be telling the coppers, get out of the way, we're going to the hospital. And they would be clearly able to see that. So I knew we wouldn't have any problems with that. But because of that, I knew that we shouldn't have too many issues with the traffic, which was good. So we kind of knew that it was only going to be 40 minutes no matter what sort of time of the day we would be going. That was really handy. That all being said, the day of contractions, or even like the couple of days before, I'm pretty sure I was having contractions. I saw my cousin here. She dropped me off some essentials, which was lovely of her, and I was standing in the driveway, and I was like, oh, ow, ooh, and she's like, I think you're going into labor. And that was like the Friday or Saturday, and then I went into labor on the Sunday. So I think it was that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that were the days that I went into labor. Anyway, so she saw me, and yeah, so I was cramping a couple of days before. I had kind of had some Braxton Hicks all through labor anyway, where my stomach was tightening, but not like deep down low, whereas this time this was like quite low. And so anyway, so the actual event, all day I was hungry. I was starving. I just could not fill up enough. So at 9:30 at night, I thought I'm gonna go for my shower, but I'm just gonna take this one last photo. So I took a photo and I'll insert it, but be warned, it is risky. A bit TMI, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, I'll put it here. And this whole video is going to be TMI, pretty much. So just warning you. So I took this photo, and then an hour later, contractions actually noticeably started happening. I'm pretty sure I was contracting all that time anyway, but I just kind of was like, meh. But this is when I kind of went, okay, now I'm contracting. So for about an hour, so from about 10:30 onwards, I was like, maybe I'm contracting, maybe I'm not, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I am. So I just kind of like was uncomfortable. I had gone to bed by this time, so I was kind of uncomfortable. And then I was like, I'm just gonna get my contraction timer out. So I just used an app on my phone, which I did have a look at what it was called. And it's just, I just literally went into App Store, and it's just called Contractions. And I just pretty much picked the first one that came up, and I just started timing them, and they were all over the shop. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't really consistent. Am I really in labor? Like, or am I just imagining this? So all night I just kept hitting that timer. So then I got to, it was in the middle of the night. I can't really remember. It was early in the morning. So I think it was like around, pretty sure it was around like 4-ish. I can't 100% remember though. But it was in the middle of the night. I called, I'm like, you know, this is happening, blah, blah, blah. When should I come in? And they're like, you should be right. Just labor at home as long as you possibly can. I said, you know, like, obviously we're 40 minutes away, so like I need to keep that in mind. And they were like, until it's sort of painful, or if you're having any heart issues, anything like that, don't stress too much. Labor at home. You'll be much more comfortable at home. Then it probably got to mid-morning. So around 10:30, 11 o'clock, I reckon it was. Maybe it was a little bit earlier. I think it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock, actually. And I started to get pains in my heart. So I decided to call the hospital. And so they just basically said, if you're having pains in your heart, come on in. We'll check you over. We'll see how dilated you are and all that sort of thing, and we'll go from there. So we pack up. I had all my stuff ready. Pack up, go and get into the car, and I only had a few contractions in the car, and they weren't too bad. But mind you, so by the time I got to the hospital, I was only 1 centimeter dilated. So contractions weren't that bad at this stage. Then I got up to like the birthing area, and they checked me. They said, you're only 1 centimeter dilated, but because you're experiencing the heart pain, let's just get you a bed. We've got beds, so let's just get you in there, and then you don't have to stress. Because like I could have gone home, and then it could have gotten really bad, and then I would have had to have gone back again, and that's 80 minutes round trip kind of thing. So they're just like, let's just be on the cautious side. So yeah, we got into, originally they were just going to put us in like where they put you after birth, just in a nice little room. But then they were like, no, we actually have a birthing suite ready for you, so let's go. So in the birthing suite, didn't have any gas. It was pretty alright for this amount of, like, for a small amount of time. Oh, small amount of time. It was a couple of hours, I think. Then I was like, oh, let's go gas. So they just started me on a low dose of gas, and my husband and I were just chatting away to the midwives. It was really nice. And the midwife, I didn't realize, but the midwife, well, I don't know if this is like with every hospital, but our midwife actually stayed with us the whole time. Also, I just want to make a disclaimer as well. This is my experience, and this is just my opinions and my point of view. So please take this all with a grain of salt. Every single birth and every single person's birth is going to be different. Everyone's journeys are going to be different. So please be kind and understand that everything I am saying is just from my point of view. So anyway, so we had the midwife with us the whole time, which was so lovely, and we shared a mutual love for travel. But of course, travel wasn't happening at that time. So we were talking about how we were going to be going around Australia and all those beautiful things, and how we were meant to go to WA before we had the baby. Before we actually fell pregnant, we'd actually booked a flight to Fiji and booked accommodation and everything to Fiji. And then obviously we decided, once I had fallen pregnant because of my issue, like my health issues, that probably going to Fiji wasn't the best idea. So let's just change it and let's just go to WA and let's just do a trip in the van, in our hippie van. And we couldn't do that, which was a real shame. But anyway, so we were chatting about like what we would have been doing and what we wanted to do and what we will do and all those great things. So that was really nice. So that took my mind off of that pain, which was really lovely. Then I was like, oh, these contractions are starting to get a little bit more. They checked me again. They broke my waters. Now I can't actually remember how many centimeters dilated I was when they broke my waters. I was having the gas a little bit, and I was like, it was on the lower side, so you know, it wasn't anything too much, but I was sucking back on it pretty hard. At one stage I was like, can I get a little bit more? I didn't realize they had started me on the lower side, so it was good once I figured that out. So I asked for them to ramp it up a little bit more, and then I just kept laboring. I was standing for the whole time. I was really surprised. And I had monitors on me, like on my belly and stuff. So no showers or anything like that. I really would have loved a water birth, but it just wasn't possible. I didn't even really feel like being in the water. I didn't really feel like a shower or anything. It was literally like the shower that I had the night before. Basically, it was the only shower that I had. So I just we tried the ball and stuff, and it was so uncomfortable. I think I was very much all baby, so she was very like tight, and I've got a really small torso, so, and she was like it felt like she was like stretching out and like being like all up in me, like that was full on. But so standing was much more comfortable for me. It was probably more exhausting because I was having to use energy to stand, but it was much better. So I'm like, I leant on the bed for most of it, and that was really good. So then, yeah, I ended up asking for an epidural. I remember looking at the time and it was around 6 o'clock-ish. Now I don't know, I can't remember if I asked for it at 6 o'clock or if it came at 6 o'clock. I remember though thinking, oh, this is taking a while for him to come in and actually put the epidural in. So, and I know that the nurse sort of was like, yeah, this is taking a little bit longer. Anyway, I think I should have, she did check me and I was 7 centimeters. And now looking back and knowing what I know now, I wish I had have just held off that little bit longer. And I think I was actually ready to push when I asked for the epidural, basically. So that was a bit of a shame, but anyway. I got the epidural, so I wasn't able to stand from then on, but the pain was gone, so I didn't feel like I needed to. So I laid on my back, and from the time of the epidural to the time I was pushing, felt like it was straight away, but I don't know if it was. So I can't actually remember that. But I know that I only know this because I remember my husband telling me, and then I remember the midwife saying that it was 2 hours of me pushing. Now for me, 2 hours of pushing may have been the reason why I ended up with a 3D tear. Now there's 4 different types of degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's very simple. 1 and 2, not so bad. 3 and 4, a lot worse. So 3 is where the muscles and your sphincter muscle is affected, and then your 4th degree tear is where your inside sphincter muscle is affected, and that then in turn creates issues with incontinence. I'm very lucky I haven't had any fecal incontinence, but on the other hand, I have had lots of incontinence now with the other. So I don't know if I would have torn as badly if I hadn't have had the epidural. Obviously, hindsight's a lovely place to live, but who knows? And if I had have, you know, maybe I would have been going, oh, I wish I had the epidural. So who knows? But anyway, so I pushed for 2 hours. I ended up having to have, the doctor ended up having to come in. She checked me and she said I was never actually going to push her out myself. I needed a little bit of assistance because she was getting caught on something. Now I can't remember that either, and my husband can't remember either. So for some reason she needed to sort of turn her a little bit. Couldn't feel any of that, of course, because I had had the epidural, so that was handy. So I got so she turned her slightly, and then I needed to have an assisted labor. She needed to use forceps to get her out, basically. So we used the forceps, I pushed and got her out, and they bring the baby up, and she was blue, and I was like, oh my God. And she wasn't crying. And I remember the midwife holding her over me, sort of rubbing her, kind of like what they do with dogs. And she's like, come on, Baba girl. And I was like, I just remember like very slowly going, is my baby okay? And of course, like all these hormones and relief and the epidural affects everything. So I remember very slowly saying, is my baby okay? And sort of feeling like I should have been worried, but I wasn't at the same time. And next minute she started crying, so that was good. I think maybe if it had have gone for a little bit longer, maybe I would have been a little bit more scared, and maybe then I would have gotten a little bit more anxious. But she started crying, it was all good. They put her on my chest, and I remember thinking, this is my baby. Okay, this is cool. Yeah, cool, all right, baby's out of me, right. Where's this? Oh my God, this is my baby. Euphoric, holy crap moment. Didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And it doesn't happen for a lot of people. I didn't know that. I didn't know. And so I thought I was broken. And I thought, oh gosh, am I going to not love my baby? And then next minute I remember I was shaking. I was so cold. But that was because of the medication that they give you. Got a temperature. So I needed to go, because of the 3D tear, I needed to go down to the surgery. So they took me down to theatre rather than doing it in the labour ward. I'm not entirely sure why. I think the doctor just preferred to do it in surgery just in case anything went wrong. And then they were actually contemplating on whether or not to actually I don't know if they were going to knock me out or what they were going to do, because they had given me the epidural and I was that tired. I just fell asleep. I literally fell asleep on the table. I don't remember getting stitched up at all. I just remember them waking me up and having to take a COVID test. That was not fun. I'd already had one during my pregnancy, so I was kind of aware of what was going to happen. And that was not nice, especially when none of them had to give a COVID test either. So that was kind of interesting. So I woke up to them giving me a COVID test up the nose and all that. And so because they had because I had the fever and they had to give me a COVID test and all of that jargon, I then had to be isolated. Not from Lila, thankfully, so she was in with me all night, but we were in our own room for the first night and in a public hospital. Well, you know, that was pretty cool. Pretty lucky, I think. So I think I'll end it there. I think I'll end this vlog here, and I think I'll do a first few days vlog for you separately, because there's lots that goes on. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that, and don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you've gotten this far. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time.